Your sister's midnight crossroads. Archangel Michael says the hour has thinned and the veil between choices is paper-light. He says your sister stands on a narrow bridge with a river of consequence beneath her feet. He says you are called now, not later, to lift a lantern and walk toward her without delay. The signs have been collecting like quiet snow. There were small changes she hoped no one would notice, but the air remembers. There is a pattern in the pauses of her voice and the way her laugh stops one note early. She has been fielding messages that leave a dust of worry behind. Numbers she never saved now call after sunset and vanish before dawn. In the bright part of the day she pretends the night is simple, but her eyes keep measuring exits. Someone older than her by a handful of winters pressed a thin folder into her hands. He told her it was a shortcut, a bridge, a lift to a future that would not arrive without a signature. He never mentioned the weight of the ink he carried in his pocket. This person speaks like fresh paint and dresses like solved problems. He collects yes as if they were coins, each one minted from someone else's piece. He has learned the grammar of pressure and the rhythm of false urgency. Your sister believed in a clean beginning and a tidy end. She imagined a story that gets better by page 3, then brighter by page 10, and only occasionally rains. She did not expect a plot twist that arrived as a favor with invisible teeth. There is money in the outline, or the promise of it. There is a guarantee buried in paragraph 6, a soft clause that becomes hard when spoken aloud. There is a whisper of collateral that wears her name like a borrowed coat. Someone is painting a door to look like salvation. The wood is thin and the hinges are tired, but the color is convincing. Your sister has touched the handle and the paint came away on her fingers. She told no one because she wanted to be strong. She told no one because she didn't want to be the storm at a picnic. She told no one because she thinks silence is a gift to the people she loves. Archangel Michael says silence is not a gift when it hides a thorn. Silence should not be a blanket that smothers the alarm. Silence must end the moment danger begins to rehearse. Tonight the city drum is slow and the streets hum with private errands. A car idles where it does not belong. A message enters, then another, each one leaning harder than the last. He told her to meet by a place that pretends to be safe. He picked a corner with cameras so he can call it neutral. But pressure is pressure in any light. There is a paper with a smart logo and a stamp that smiles. The lines are arranged to look like a ladder. The last rung is higher than it seems. Your sister has a friend who believes every promise is holy. That friend is kind and sweet and new to this kind of rain. She is encouraging your sister to be brave in the wrong direction. Bravery isn't walking into a trap with steady hands. Bravery is pausing on the threshold and reading the shadow. Bravery is choosing delay over danger and honesty over hurry. Archangel Michael says to step in without spectacle. Speak low and clear and bring the lantern of ordinary love. Tell her the bridge does not have to be crossed tonight. You remember her from earlier years, sleeves full of sunlight and jokes that tripped over themselves. You remember when her dreams were simple and brilliant like citrus. You remember the first time she mistook a hungry mouth for a helpful voice. This is not the time for blame. This is a time for correct names. Call the pressure what it is, a debt dressed as a favor, a cage disguised as a shortcut, a storm wearing perfume. There is also a second path in this woven night. Someone from a distance thinks your sister will not be missed if she is rearranged. They believe that people who do not shout cannot be heard. They have attempted to search her boundaries for a gap. Will still be echoes. Echoes happen after all loud things. You will teach her to identify echoes so she does not chase them. It is not your job to fix every room she enters. It is your job to show up when the room tries to change her name. It is your job to refuse the script where she loses herself to someone else's hunger. Archangel Michael says the bridge is still there, but it no longer pretends to be necessary. The river flows, but it is only water. The lantern is warm in your hands and the path is readable. You will help her sleep. You will help her eat breakfast that tastes like beginning. You will help her practice the sentence that keeps her whole. No is a complete sentence that belongs in her pocket. Not tonight is another. I'll decide after review is a third, and it loves daylight. Healing will walk in like a person who knows the house. It will put its keys down where they belong. It will make a list with gentle handwriting and small squares she can check. Your sister will start to take up her rightful room. She will test her voice on neutral sentences, then on brave ones. She will open the windows herself and let morning take inventory. Archangel Michael says tonight you learned how fast love can be. He says you learned that love is not noise, and courage is not volume. He says you learned that showing up is a miracle wearing ordinary shoes. Keep your phone charged, but not as a leash. Keep your door open, but not as a boundary dissolved. Keep your heart steady, but not as a stone. The person with the folder will look for another quiet bridge. Bridges like this prefer people who feel small. Your sister is no longer on the list. If there are apologies to be made, they will be made in daylight. If there are lessons to be learned, they will be learned with kindness. If there are new rules, they will be written in language that does not bruise. This is a beginning disguised as a crisis. This is the chapter where the spine of the book learns it is strong. This is the part where you remember your family is a door that swings both ways. Archangel Michael says to rest without guilt. He says to trust the chair to hold you. He says to trust the morning to keep its promise. The house is quieter than it was, but not empty. The room holds what it needs to hold. The knight retires with its coat in its hands. You have done what love does when the alarm is honest. You have named the danger and chosen the day. You have proved that attention is a form of rescue. Your sister is involved in a situation that required your immediate attention, and you gave it. You showed her that family is not a word, it is a practice. You reminded the world that your names belong to you. Keep the lantern where you can find it. Keep the drawer locked until the appointment. Keep the promise you made to stand between her and the storm, not as a wall, but as a weather report. If the echoes return, answer them with facts. If the pressure returns, answer it with process. If the fear returns, answer it with your footsteps in the hallway. Archangel Michael says the bridge will not forget the night you chose the day. He says the river will remember you walked away dry. He says the stars were witnesses and they are humming your names. This is the chapter that ends with breath, not suspense. This is the page that settles like a hand on a shoulder. This is the moment that turns into a habit of safety. You may feel the tremble subside in tiny measures. You may notice laughter rehearse its lines again. You may watch your sister try on her full name like a dress that finally fits. And when the phone lights up with the wrong kind of dawn, you will both be ready. You will not be baited by urgency you did not request. You will be loyal to the pace that protects peace. Archangel Michael says your work tonight was not glamorous, it was sacred. He says the most sacred work often looks like ordinary love done consistently. He says your lantern deserves a place of honor by the door. The city will wake and not know what you prevented. The birds will keep their appointment with the window. The day will open like a letter with good news. Carry this forward as practice, not performance. Carry it as muscle memory, not superstition. Carry it as proof that attention changes outcomes. Your sister will walk beside you with a stride that is hers. She will speak to helpers who tell the truth. She will learn the alphabet of no and the poetry of boundaries. Archangel Michael says, "It is done for tonight." He says rest is not a luxury, it is part of rescue. He says sunrise is already on its way. You can leave a small light on in the hallway. You can place the folder in the drawer and put the key where you both can find it. You can breathe in a way that teaches the room to relax. The bridge remains, but the rush has ended. The river runs, but you are not its subject. The lantern cools, but it is not going out. This is how a family becomes weatherproof. This is how a name becomes safe in its own mouth. This is how a night ends without taking anything it did not bring. Archangel Michael says the story of last night becomes the compass for today. He says the first light after a hard night is not decoration but instruction. He says you are to carry that light into every room your sister enters. The morning begins with small tasks that hold large meaning. You brew tea as if warmth is a plan. You open the curtains as if transparency is a boundary. Your sister studies the quiet and dares to believe in it. The phone, face down, has less power than her breath. The folder, in a locked drawer, waits for daylight minds. Today you write 3 short notes that simplify the storm. One for the person who tried to hurry her, one for the office that reads small print, and one for yourselves. Each note is clear, calm, and complete. Clarity is tenderness shaped like sentences. Boundaries are kindness shaped like lines. Plans are courage shaped like calendars. You choose a time in ordinary hours to visit a place where fine print must tell the truth. You agree to go together and to leave together. You agree that no signature will be grown in the dark. Archangel Michael says to steady the narrative before the day edits it. He says to remember what was pressure and what was preference. He says to mark which parts were yours and which were attempts to place burdens in your hands. There is a second messenger who moves like static. They tried to make trouble sound like a favor. They tried to blend danger with charm. You unblend it by naming it. You separate charm from consent, sweetness from safety, and hope from haste. Words placed in their right drawer stop making a mess. Your sister breathes deeper each hour. Her shoulders measure new space. Her voice begins to choose its own volume. This morning you propose a script that keeps peace in the room. It is 3 lines long and fits in her pocket. It is a way to speak without inviting argument. The first line is I am not making decisions today. The second line is I will review this with counsel. The third line is communication about this will be written and scheduled. Scripts give frightened moments a spine. They are not cages, they are rails. They allow the heart to ride safely through the turn. You both review the messages that arrived last night. Anything that insults your boundary is archived by the truth of your decision. Anything that respects daylight earns a place on the calendar. There is a temptation to explain everything to everyone. You resist that temptation because explanation can become a trap. You decide your audience is small and your purpose is simple. Your purpose is the safety of your sister and the health of her future. Your purpose is not to persuade people invested in her confusion. Your purpose is not to win applause from a crowd that did not help at midnight. Archangel Michael says to choose witnesses wisely. He says witnesses can be anchors or they can be weights. He says today you will gather anchors. An anchor is a friend who loves the truth more than drama. An anchor is a colleague who reads contracts without blinking. An anchor is a relative who remembers how strong your sister has always been. You reach out to one person with a steady mind and a quiet mouth. You invite them for coffee at a table that knows your names. You do not share every detail, only the pieces that help the day stay honest. Together you make a small list titled Protection. On it are simple items that carry large results. You commit to completing them before sundown. The list begins with number hygiene. Unknown numbers are muted and unhelpful threads are archived. Two-factor locks the doors that trouble prefers. The list continues with location choices. Meetings only in places with staff and windows. No corners, no parking lots, no rooms that whisper. The list notes documentation. Any verbal offer becomes written or it is considered wind. Any sudden deadline becomes suspect or it becomes a calendar appointment next week. Your sister practices saying no in a gentle tone. No is not a fight, it is a sentence that keeps people whole. No is how she chooses the stories that deserve her name. You notice how often she apologizes for existing. You ask her to trade apologies for gratitude. Thank you for waiting is stronger than sorry I took time. Language changes posture. Posture changes choices. Choices change outcomes. Archangel Michael says to bring the past into the room only to rescue its wisdom. He says do not invite old shame to serve refreshments. He says you are not case studies, you are people learning faster. In the afternoon you walk into the office where small print speaks in daylight. The chairs are unremarkable and therefore holy. The air smells like paper and decisions. You slide the folder across the desk and say the simplest sentence. Please help us read this. Help arrives in the form of calm questions that do not accuse. Every clause tries to hide its teeth behind vocabulary. Teeth are found when time is taken. Time is your ally because you chose it. The person across the desk traces paragraph 6 with a careful finger. They explain the path of risk and the size of the promise. Risk is larger than promised and the promise is smaller than risk. A page that pretended to be a ladder is revealed as a slide. A stamp that pretended to be a shield is revealed as a sticker. A signature that pretended to be a key is revealed as a leash. You and your sister share a glance that has more words than speech. It says you were right to wait. It says you were wise to bring daylight. The recommendation is clear and gentle. Decline this offer. Replace it with a plan that respects math and mornings. Plans that respect mornings are built with patient numbers. They do not punish you for breathing. They do not punish you for pausing. Archangel Michael says dignity is the currency of safe agreements. He says any deal that costs dignity is already too expensive. He says your names are not negotiable. You leave the office lighter than you arrived. The folder is now a map of what not to do. Relief rises like the sun stepping out from behind a polite cloud. Relief is not the end, it is the doorway. After relief comes maintenance. After maintenance comes growth. You celebrate with food that tastes like energy. Your sister laughs with her whole face for the first time in days. Laughter decides to stay for dessert. In the evening you revise the circle of access around her life. People who do not honor pace lose privileges. People who welcome pace move closer. You open the windows to let the day rinse the rooms. You set your phones to respect sleep. You call the night by its right size. The person who used pressure sends another message. It arrives like a shadow but reads like repetition. Repetition is not evidence, it is noise. Noise loses power when ignored on purpose. You ignore on purpose because you have a plan. Plans attract morning and morning attracts health. Your sister writes a letter to herself and places it in a drawer. The letter promises to protect the small hours from strangers. The letter is an oath to consult the daylight when decisions pretend to be emergencies. Oaths to yourself are the architecture of peace. They are signed with time and steadiness. They are witnessed by daily choices. Archangel Michael says to build a small library in her mind. In it there are handbooks for boundaries, chapters on consent, and psalms of self-respect without ceremony. The shelves are labeled with words like enough and already and not today. You both remember the early mornings when you learned to ride bicycles. Someone ran beside you, steadying the wobble. Today you run beside her in a grown-up way. Wobbles are not failures, they are practice. Practice becomes balance. Balance becomes freedom disguised as ordinary living. Tomorrow you will start on the growth part. Growth is the part after maintenance where she chooses new projects that love her back. Projects that love her back do not demand her peace as down payment. You list her talents without minimizing any of them. You list where those talents can earn honest income without strange strings. You list what small steps begin the door opening. A small step is a phone call to someone who teaches without selling. A small step is a class at a table where curiosity is safe. A small step is a commitment to learn the craft of reading offers like a scientist. Craft makes confidence because it builds muscles that do not rely on adrenaline. Confidence makes options because bravery can walk without running. Options make calm because trapped people breathe like hunted animals. Archangel Michael says calm is not empty, it is full of decisions made on purpose. He says peace is not passive, it is active stewardship of your hours. He says love is not loud, it is consistent. You help her plan a week that holds both rest and motion. The schedule is a room with windows. Each window opens to a task that respects her bandwidth. Bandwidth matters because depletion is where trouble recruits. Depletion loves to pretend it is destiny. You defeat depletion with food, sleep, sunlight, and honest company. You revisit the social circle with the clarity of today. One friend listens to reply and not to understand. Another friend listens to understand and not to control. You move toward the second friend. You move away from the first. Movement is not drama, it is maintenance. Maintenance can be unglamorous and still sacred. Sweeping the floor of your hours is holy in its own way. Dust is easier to remove than regret. Archangel Michael says to watch for kindness that is round and not sharp. He says sharp kindness is control with makeup. He says round kindness is safety with a low voice. At midweek you both return to the office for a follow-up. This time the folder contains alternatives that behave like ladders. The person across the desk points to rungs that do not vanish. Rungs that do not vanish are built from verified numbers and fair terms. They are held in place by laws that mean what they say. They do not punish you for asking for time. You and your sister consider a benign path that keeps her autonomy intact. It is slower than the slide but healthier than the fall. It expects her to participate and rewards her for clarity. Participation is not surrender, it is collaboration. Clarity is not cold, it is compassionate to the future. Health is not boring, it is fertile. Your sister signs nothing today because review is still in progress. Patience proves itself once more by not rushing the pen. The pen belongs to her, not to pressure. Archangel Michael says the test is not whether the world approves. The test is whether your body relaxes when you read the terms. The test is whether tomorrow looks like choice instead of chore. Evenings are now for cooking, for music that does not try to sell you anything, and for walking without looking over the shoulder. Safety is a habit that learns your names. The habit becomes effortless after repetition. You make a simple safety plan that fits on one page. It includes who to call if a loud thing happens.